Your job is to take it, not to turn around and bully children.
Thank you, Mrs. Apple. Followed by Lillian Fox and Cesar Aguirre. And Mr. Aguirre is my last card if anyone else wanted to put one in.
Good evening, Dr. Sanchez, TUSD Board. I am Keith Van Heyningen. I am a Tucson resident. It's the first time you've met me. I'll be back. I'm here to tell you why you're such a failing group. You've been under that federal DSEG order for 40 years and done nothing about it, basically. We went through the whole MAS Sean Arce debacle. Remember the first time we met, Cam? I do. It's on tape. Got 8 witnesses. We'll talk about it later. You've come up with transgender bathroom for 6-year-olds? That used to be called child abuse. Now you want to be a destination district for illegal alien children. Wow. Less than 50 cents on the dollar gets to the students, really? The rest is administration, maintenance, all that good stuff. You can't run a business that way. We have the same old familiar Tucson nepotism, the same old family names. You know that there's a state tax credit to get your kids out of TUSD, get them into a private school? I wish I would have had that when my daughter was growing up. My daughter never went to TUSD. I made sure of that. Simply, you have been weighed, you have been measured, and you have been found wanting. So from all you've done, we can say the controlling majority of this board are racist, anti-Americans, perverts. And say hi to Augie for me. Have a good night.
Lillian Fox, I don't have any more cards, so that ends the call to the audience. We had a few speakers talk to the point about the testing and the standardized testing, and I'd asked Dr. Sanchez for some information and some legal opinion, and he provided some information to board members, and so I'd like to go ahead and ask him to provide that same information that we were provided, because many of the concerns that were brought forward were also brought forward by board members. Dr. Sanchez.
Sure. Ms. Tullison and I spent quite a bit of time taking a look at what is required by Arizona statute. This assessment piece goes deeper than just the state level. Our federal funding, Title I, Title II, Title III, is tied to compliance with No Child Left Behind. No Child Left Behind is, of course, levied by the state. When you take a look at the state receiving its waiver from having to abide by the whole annual yearly progress measure, there are agreements that the state makes with the federal government when it comes to standardized testing. Standardized testing is something that I believe many people had hoped that Arnie Duncan and the president would take a look at, and that standardized testing would be scaled back, if not eliminated. I know that that was the feel of quite a few educators, me being one of those educators. And so, as we took a look at what's required, I will deny that I encourage parents to take a more active role. The active role, however, needs to be at the federal level and at the state level. When we receive statutory language and requirements that we have to administer the assessments, then that's what we're bound to by state law. I asked legal counsel to review the matter and to provide an opinion from a legal point of view. I reviewed the matter from an administrative point of view, and as a public school district and as a public school superintendent, it's a statutory requirement that at this point in year we administer standardized tests. There's no way we can put the test in front of a child and put the pencil in the child's hand and say, you have to take the test. State requires that we put the test in front of the child and we give the child the opportunity to take the test. If a parent pulls a child and says, my child's not going to take the test during the testing window, if the child is returned to school, we're required by the state of Arizona, Arizona Department of Education, to put the assessment in front of the child. Those are the legal requirements that we are bound by. You know, if community, and I'd express this to the board, if community doesn't agree with this, it's great to come and voice it here. And it's great for us to hear it. In many regards to the educators that are in the room, and there are a lot in the back of the room that I see, you're preaching to the choir, and when it comes to the board, you're preaching to the choir. There's a place for assessment, but there's a better way to do it. I feel that when we were in school, we had the ACT and SAT as college entrance exams, and those sufficed for many generations. And so what we're looking at is, I believe, I agree, an over-testing phenomena. What we're bound to do is follow law. And as a private citizen, as I vote, I get my opportunity to cast my vote for people that I hope won't let me down and will carry the mantle forward of supporting the limiting of state assessments and of assessments at the national level. But on this matter, I've reviewed the administrative component, legal has reviewed the legal requirement, and we are bound, as I've just described and as was stated in the letter. It doesn't change how I feel about it, but there are those times where administratively we have to execute the function. So there are consequences, of course, for not being in compliance with state law that include withholding of federal funds, state funds. Those are all realities. So in dealing with it, when it comes to lack of funding, in a situation where the state is at the point of almost formalizing $200 million in budget cuts as it goes to per pupil allocation, dealing with it means that the 1 to 27 that we put forward this year, as well as salary adjustments and not handing out pink slips, would be less of a reality and less of a possibility. So there are consequences to non-compliance, and those are well documented and understood.
Dr. Sanchez?
Ms. Foster.
So how can our district, how can we as a board, how can TUSD support our parents who have these concerns?
You know, in terms of the board always has the option to put a resolution forward, but it's this board working with other boards in the state of Arizona and across the United States that would stand up and say that the nation gives too many tests and focuses on narrow measures of student learning as opposed to broader measures of student learning. That would be the most effective means, and it's something that has to be driven by the populace. When the No Child Left Behind Act was voted in, it was voted in with bipartisan support. It wasn't one party over the other. It was all the United States feeling it was a good idea. And again, it's going to be the same level of support that got it in that will get it out. And it can't be a small group. It would have to be quite a few people together, understanding that this course of action has run its course and needs to be evaluated, assessed, and scaled down tremendously.
Thank you. Do any other board members wish to address any of the other issues that were brought forward by any of the speakers? All right, thank you very much. Information item 5, key control overview. Dr. Sanchez.
Yes, ma'am. When I came into the district, I heard quite a bit about our key control